Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopi Jana Balava Giri Baradhare. Gopi Jana Balava Giri Baradhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopi Jana Balava Giri Baradhare. Gopi Jana Balava Giri Baradhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupad Paramaham Saparivrajakcharis Tadasasi Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Gruntaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Gruntaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Giri Govardhan ki, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Sankirtan Yagya ki, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, Instructions by Maharaj Prithu, verse 32. Correct? Vener Duta Shesha Mano Mala Puman Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yad Angre Mule Krita Caitanya Punar Na Samsritim Klesha Vaham Prapadyate Vener Duta Shesha Manomala Puman Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yadangri Mule Krita Caitanya Punar Nasam Sritim Klesha Vaham Prapadyate Vener Duta Shesha Manomala Puman Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yadangri Mule Krita Caitanya Punar Na samsritim klesha vaham prapadyate. Vinerduta shesha manomalapuman. Asanga vijnana vishesha viryavan. Yadangri mule kritaketana punar. Na samsritim klesha vaham prapadyate. Mataji's. Sangha vijnana vishesha viryavan. Yadangri mule kritaketana punar. Nasamsatim klesha vaham prapadyate. Vinirduta, being specifically cleansed. Ashesha, unlimited. Manamala, mental speculation. Or the dirt accumulated in the mind. Puman, the person. Asanga, being disgusted. Vijnana, scientifically. Vishesha, particularly. Viryavan, being strengthened in bhakti yoga. Yat, whose, angri, lotus feet, mule, at the root of, kritaketana, taken shelter. Punna, again. Na, never. samsritim, material existence, klesha vaham, full of miserable conditions, prapadyate, takes to. Translation: when a devotee takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is completely cleansed of all misunderstanding or mental speculation, and he manifests renunciation. This is possible only when one is strengthened by practicing bhakti yoga. Once having taken shelter at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back to this material existence, which is full of the threefold miseries. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As stated by Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshastika instructions, by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, or by the process of hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord, one's mind is gradually cleansed of all dirt. Due to our material association since time immemorial, we have accumulated heaps of dirty things in our minds. The total effect of this takes place when a living entity identifies himself with his body and is thus entrapped by the stringent laws of material nature and put into the cycle of repeated birth and death under the false impression of bodily identification. When one is strengthened by practicing bhakti yoga, his mind is cleansed of this misunderstanding, and he's no longer interested in material existence or in sense gratification. Bhakti, or devotional service, is characterized by vairagya and jnana. Jnana refers to understanding that one is not his body, and vairagya means disinterest in sense gratification. These two primary principles of separation from material bondage can be realized on the strength of bhakti yoga. Thus, when a devotee is fixed in the loving service of the lotus feet of the Lord, he will never come back to this material existence after quitting his body, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita by the Lord. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naitimam eti sorjana. Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 9. In this verse, the word vijnana is specifically important. Jnana, the knowledge of spiritual identity that one attains when he does not consider himself to be the body, is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Brahma Bhuta, and also in Srimad Bhagavatam 4:30-20. Brahma Bhuta, or the revival of spiritual realization. In the conditioned state of material existence, one cannot be spiritually realized because he identifies himself materially. The understanding of the distinction between material existence and spiritual existence is called jnana. After coming to the platform of jnana, or the Brahma Bhuta stage, one ultimately comes to devotional service in which he completely understands his own position and the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This understanding is explained here as vijnana vishesha. The Lord says, therefore, that knowledge of him is vijnana, science. In other words, when one is strengthened by scientific knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his position of liberation is guaranteed. In Bhagavad Gita 9:2, the science of devotional service is described as pratyakshaavagamam dharamyam, direct understanding of the principles of religion by realization. By practicing Bhakti Yoga, one can directly perceive his advancement in spiritual life. In other practices, like karma yoga, jnana yoga, and dhyana yoga, one may not be confident about his progress, but in Bhakti Yoga, one can become directly aware of his progress in spiritual life. Just as a person who eats can understand that his hunger is satisfied. Our false appetite for enjoyment and lordship of the material world is due to a prominence of passion and ignorance. By Bhakti Yoga, these two qualities are diminished, and one becomes situated in the mode of goodness. Gradually surpassing the mode of goodness, one is situated in pure goodness, which is not contaminated by the material qualities. When thus situated, a devotee no longer has any doubts. He knows that he will not come back to this material world. The verse again, Vener duta shesha manomalapaman, asanga vijnana vishesha viryavan, yad angri mule kritiketana punar, na samsritim klesha vaham prapajyate. When a devotee takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is completely cleansed of all misunderstanding or mental speculation, and he manifests renunciation. This is possible only when one is strengthened by practicing Bhakti Yoga. Once having taken shelter at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back to this material existence, which is full of the threefold miseries. Nama Om Vishnupada Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarane Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, yes, this is very nice. This is extremely nice. A beautiful verse, and it's explaining such an important point that, well, in principle, you could say that we have not got the capacity in and of ourselves. We have not got the capacity to transcend this material world, to go back to Godhead, just in and of ourselves. What we need is a certain type of power, a certain type of strength, and we can get that strength by performing devotional service, by rendering devotional service to the Lord. The devotee becomes empowered. And on the basis of that empowerment, then the devotee can progress, first of all, and then ultimately return back home, back to the spiritual world, into one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is a very important point to grasp. In this material world, everybody, including us, we're all conditioned by this idea that I can do it, I can do whatever it may be. That sort of idea is there within the mind generally of everyone. And I remember, I've mentioned before actually, the late Madan Mohan Prabhu. Yes, he told me a little story. When he was living in Ermelo, he went to a program done by Mother Acha Vigraha's son, Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. I mean, the two of you would probably remember. Yeah. Anyway, the way he told it was, Mother Acha Vigraha's son, I think Michael was his name, Michael Lipkin. He was one of these, what would you say, business guru types. That, yeah, a motivational speaker getting people motivated for work, to work better, more productively, and then ultimately make more money, and that sort of idea. That was the basic idea. So he did such a program in Ermelo, sleepy little Ermelo, which, is still half asleep, but anyway, yeah, in Ermelo. So he's one of these motivational speakers, so he has to come on as extremely motivated. So at least according to Madan Mohan Prabhu, this Michael Lipkin, who was also something of a devotee or something like that, at some point in his presentation to all the business people and working people, he emphasized that you can do it. Don't think you can't do it. Don't sort of hold yourself back, but have that mood, I can do it. So he went around the crowd. Were you actually there that evening in the program? Oh, you were there. So you would know better than me, but he went around, I think some of the people, because there's probably quite a number of people, not everyone, but some of the people, and he was saying, can you do it? And this one, Jai Sachinandan Prabhu, would say, yes! And then, can you do it? Yes! Can you do it? Yes! And he came to Madan Mohan Prabhu. Can you do it? Hari Bol! I got it right. Yeah, that's what he told me. He just said Hari Bol. And Michael Lipkin, who of course knew about these things, it wasn't just some sort of crazy type of interjection, but he understood, oh, you're a devotee. But in material life, people think it's like that. That you can do it, you just got to get out of negativity. And once you get out of negativity, you can do, they would say you can do practically anything. Almost any, at least many things that previously when you are under the influence of negativity, you would certainly think that, oh, I could never do that. But now somehow or other, with this positive thinking, you can do it. The fallacy of that, or the short-sightedness at least of that, is there in another story told by His Holiness Sridhar Maharaj, the late, our godbrother Sridhar Maharaj, such a nice devotee. He told a story to illustrate sort of the foolishness of just thinking you can just do anything, just be positive enough, and you can just do anything. In his little story, the American, probably must have been American naval fleet, or some substantial part of it, was crossing some ocean somewhere. And as they're going, the front ship, where the big chief is, the admiral, the head man, they see on the radar coming up somewhere down the way, like straight in front of them, is something. It's like it's a blip on the radar screen, means something's there, and if they don't watch out, there's going to be a collision. So the admiral sent a message to whatever it was down there, that, I am Admiral such and such, and we are the such and such fleet of the Navy. You're in our way. Please move out of the way. And a voice came back saying, thank you very much, but could you please move out of the way? And the admiral said, well, no, I am Admiral such and such, and can you please move out of the way? So went back and forth a bit like that a couple of times. In the end, the admiral says, we are going to court-martial you or something if you don't move out of the way now, because we are the Navy. And the voice at the other end said, I am a lighthouse. Please move out of the way. It means, affixed something there. And, you can't move a lighthouse. So the admiral and company had to move out of the way. So there are different examples given of how just positive thinking and being sort of strong within yourself has limitations within this material world. Of course, we don't want to just be caught up in foolish negativity, but in order to get some Shakti to do special things, ultimately one needs empowerment from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what one needs. Even if someone takes shelter of a demigod and gets some empowerment in that way, it's always limited. And sooner or later, the empowerment will run out and the person will be sort of back to square one or something like that. Yes, right. So anyway, here in the purport, the verse is saying, when a devotee takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, the devotee becomes completely cleansed of all misunderstanding, of everything, or everything material, but specifically mentioned are all misunderstanding or mental speculation. And then the devotee manifests renunciation. Another little story that Sridhar Maharaj told to illustrate the point is that some people, they drive into a city that they've never been before, but they have some appointment at some address somewhere. So they get out the map or their little telephone, whatever it is, and they try to find the place, but they're struggling to find the place. And somebody, one of the party, says, "Come on, just be more determined." That sort of idea. Come on, just, yeah, let's look more carefully. We'll find it. Just got to be more fired up about it. So again, they look and they look and they look and they can't find it. And then what happens? They realize they're looking at the map of the wrong city. So, that also comes from Sridhar Maharaj. At least I heard it from him. So, this sort of independent determination and strength of purpose and all that sort of thing. Of course, we don't want to just be caught up in negativity and just the mind and our anxieties and concerns and fears, all these types of things. But the real way to get out of all of that is by being sheltered by the Lord and getting some Shakti from the Lord. Then you can be sheltered from the problems which may cause you anxiety, and you can have the Shakti to achieve practically anything. Many things, you could say actually practically anything, but certainly many things, even beyond your expectations, even beyond your hopes. Like your goals. You may set a goal and think, wow, I hope I can achieve my goal. But you can achieve more than your goal. I remember hearing, it was perhaps the first book distribution marathon at Christmas in Prabhupada's time, first or maybe second in America, one devotee named Sarvabhauma. Did you know him? He was distributing books. I think he was Sarvabhauma. And so everyone in the temple, maybe Los Angeles temple, they set goals. Let's all set a goal, each for each one of us, more than we've ever done before, and just see if we can do it by Krishna's mercy. So this one, I think his name was Sarvabhauma, he set a goal of something like 75 books, Srimad Bhagavatam, individual volumes. Not the big ones that we have nowadays, but the smaller ones from those days, but still, they're substantial books. So he set some sort of goal like that, and he was praying, let me do that number, and my Lord, please be kind and help me and empower me and all that, which is very nice. And on the final day, I think Christmas Eve, he did about 128 Srimad Bhagavatams. It was beyond what he was praying to do. He was thinking, if I do whatever it was, 75 or something, sure, that'll be a world record, and it'll just be fantastic. The whole world will be excited and impressed. And he was praying to do like that. But in the end, by the mercy of the Lord, the empowerment of the Lord, he did a lot more than he had hoped to do. And it just goes to show that, the the story, the printing of the first printing of Caitanya Charitamrita. The devotees said, Prabhupada asked, so how quickly can you do this? Like, what was it? 17 volumes, I think, something like that. And the devotee there, Radha Vallabha, you probably remember Radha Vallabha. You remember him? Yeah, I used to know him. Radha Vallabha, he's the production manager of the BBT, said, well, Prabhupada, at the moment we're doing one book every two months. So what we will do, we will double it. We will do a book a month. Means like 17 months. And Prabhupada said, no, I want these books, all these books done in 2 months. Just way beyond what Radha Vallabha had thought of. And Radha Vallabha said, but Prabhupada, that's impossible. And what did Prabhupada say? Right, impossible is a word in the Fool's Dictionary. And of course one could say, well listen, I'm a fool, so impossible is a word in my dictionary. 2 months, forget it. But anyway, they did it, and they sent the devotee. Prabhupada was in Vrindavan when they completed the printing. Yeah, paintings, sure, everything. It's not a small thing to produce books from like tape recordings. Yeah. So anyway, they did it, and they sent a devotee with maybe a set or maybe just one book, but some Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavatams to Prabhupada in Vrindavan. So they completed it on the exact day at the end of 2 months, the last day. But then he had to fly. So he got there the next day and came in to Prabhupada, just see Prabhupada, we did it, look at this, and here's a Bhagavatam for you. And Prabhupada said, you are 1 day late. So, the mind of the elevated Vaishnava is in another realm. So anyway, first of all in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about Lord Caitanya in Shikshastakam, in the first verse, talks about how by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, or not just chanting, but he says, or by the process of hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord, one's mind is gradually cleansed of all dirt. Cheto darpana marjanam. Very famous line from that verse. How the mind, how the heart, cheta, the consciousness, the seat of consciousness, becomes cleansed by chanting, by the Sankirtan Yajna. But the problem is that we're so conditioned. We've been in this material world since time immemorial, and there's so much dirt built up in our minds, and now we need some process for cleaning it out. But as I'm sure many of us know, when a place like your room or, like a stove or whatever it may be, has not been cleaned for a long time, and now you've got to clean it, it can take a long time and a lot of effort to clean that, neglected and extremely dirty thing, whatever it may be. Yes, it can take a long time. So Prabhupada sort of acknowledges that here, that one's mind is gradually cleansed. It's not that you wake up the next day and there you are, cleansed mind, and away you go, and yeah. So it all culminates, the dirt in the mind and the effect of the dirt, the sort of the dirtiness, the effect of the dirt accumulated within the mind, within the heart, is manifested. Prabhupada says the total effect of this, the accumulation of dirt within the mind, is when a living entity identifies himself with his body and is thus entrapped by the stringent laws of material nature, and then goes into the cycle of birth and death, and just away you go, away you go. Yeah, practically without limit, you just go. Yes, so this is the sort of the first manifestation, and it's such an extremely fundamental and foundational manifestation of the dirtiness which we've accumulated by participating in material life. That tendency to identify with the body, and in this way all problems arise on that basis. All problems arise on that basis. And of course, people are thinking that we've got to solve our problems and be happy. Yeah, no more problems. If there are no more problems, we'll be happy. But the problem is that they don't understand the root of the problem. Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of the worst part of it. They may have some desire or even determination to make life better, to make the world a better place, and like that. But they don't understand, actually they don't understand generally at all what is the root of the problem, which if left unaddressed, then the problem is just unavoidable, it's inescapable. You'll never get out of the problematic situation one way or another. It may be one type of problem or another. The natures of the problems may change in one sense, but ultimately, a person and people in general will just be in this hopeless situation, actually. It's hopeless. Hoping against hope. Yeah. The last thing that dies is hope, they say. Yeah. One of many sayings. So, yeah, this is the fundamental problem, and without addressing that problem and really addressing it and overcoming it and removing the problem, in one way or another, in one species or another, in one place or another in the material world, one will just carry on in the same difficult and often miserable material existence. So anyway, when Prabhupada says, when one is strengthened by practicing bhakti yoga, then the mind becomes cleansed of this misunderstanding, the false impression of bodily identification, and then the person becomes disinterested in material existence or in sense gratification. And Prabhupada then goes on in the second paragraph to say that bhakti, devotional service, is characterized by vairagya and jnana. And he's sort of referring, it appears he's referring to particular verse, kind of famous verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 2, verse 7. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojata Janyat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahoitukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Vairagya and jnana. These are the two things which are mentioned in the verse under discussion from the 4th canto. Yes, that by performing devotional service specifically, then these two things rise within the heart. Vairagya, detachment, and jnana, knowledge, understanding. And then on the basis of that, one can progress in Krishna consciousness. And when a person is fixed like that, then they won't return to the material world. Yes, because the material world, of course, there are ups and downs, and people have a type of optimism. Oftentimes it's kind of causeless optimism. It's kind of irrational optimism, because the experiences in life in so many cases are not good, but still they have this optimism that we'll be successful. So the person, the devotee, as the devotee renders devotional service, then within the heart of the devotee, within the consciousness, arise vairagya and jnana, detachment and knowledge. These things arise in the heart. And as they rise in the heart in the context of the performance of devotional service, then the devotee progresses, and gradually the devotee loses interest. It is, Prabhupada right at the end of the purport says that when you practice in some other practice, karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, or whatever it may be, then one may not be confident, am I making progress? There's a saying, certainly an idea, that when you follow another process which is not connected with devotional service to the Lord, then you're following the process, and of course you're hoping. Maybe you're expecting, but at least you're hoping to make some progress and become successful in that field. But there's a saying that in so many cases, whether you're progressing or not, you'll only find out at the time of death. Did I make progress or did I not? And then if you realize, oops, I didn't make progress, then it's too late. But here Prabhupada is emphasizing towards the end that by practicing bhakti yoga, one can directly perceive one's advancement in spiritual life. And Prabhupada gives the example, nice example, it's from a verse from the 11th canto, that when you're hungry, then you get some food. You're really hungry, but you get some food and you eat the food. And as you're eating step by step, it takes a little while, to finish the meal. But as you're going through it step by step, you perceive, it's just a reality, that I'm becoming less hungry, to the point where you may become so less hungry that you just don't want to eat anymore. That it's just, no, I can't do it. Like that. So the same sort of objective experience is there when one practices bhakti yoga, when one practices Krishna consciousness very nicely. And of course it manifests in different ways, but one of the main ways is that, as described in the 11th canto, that example of the hungry person eating, then the devotee experiences that my attachments and attractions, my interest in material life and things I used to do and I thought, wow, they're great, but that interest, the type of attraction, it just reduces. And it's not just a belief that, well, I believe I'm not so interested in, smoking cigarettes, for example, or whatever it may be. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. So, like this, progress in Bhakti Yoga and Krishna consciousness can be directly perceived. And that's one way. There are other ways too. But it's one way that one's false appetite for enjoyment in the material world diminishes. Yes. And so ultimately then, when the devotee is situated beyond the contamination of bodily identification and everything arising from it, when thus situated, a devotee no longer has any doubts. He knows that he'll not come back to this material world. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any comments, questions, corrections, subtractions? Anyone want to say something?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj, for that very exceptional class. You mentioned early on in the class about Mike Lipkin and some motivation. But at the time also, I think before him, we had Stephen Covey. There was a whole thing about Stephen, 7 steps.
Right.
I think ISKCON was promoting that.
Yes.
At some point.
To some degree, that's true.
I remember we were frantically looking for these books all over the bookstores. It was a bestseller, I think, that time. Yeah.
Well, interesting point. Some of the things, a lot of what he was saying, and just those people in general say, a lot of it is like common sense. Like one of his points, which I remember to this day, is try to understand before trying to be understood. In other words, listen to the people. If they're asking you for a solution, then listen and really understand what the situation is. Then you maybe can help. But it's just common sense. It's not like some, special revelation from the divine. But you know what the problem is with common sense? The problem with common sense is it's not so common. Yeah. And so when people hear some of these things, they think, wow, that's really good. But it's just common sense. Anyway, thank you.
That's such a good point that I always tell people and devotees in particular, when you're dealing with people, first you take in the information and you don't react. Then maybe you say, I have to analyze, think it over, talk it with someone else.
Right.
You don't have to make a response. My father used to train me that way. He said, what's Mickey Mouse, a cat or a dog? Quick. And either way, you're wrong. So sometimes we see that people react right away.
Right.
Instead of saying, I need to take in that information and think it over. And then you take that, first you take it in, then you think it over, and then you get back.
Right.
It's such a better way of doing things.
Right, that's good. There's actually sort of a concept called reactivism.
Yes.
It's a thing, you know, like an understood phenomenon, which is detrimental. Something comes up, but you feel you just got to react. But like you're saying, better to think about it and, you know, and
train my
discuss
children
it.
that way. Don't react. Take in the information.
Right.
Make sure you're getting it all correct. Then you're going to analyze it and look it over. And then when you come back with something, it's well thought out as to what is the right thing.
Right. Thank you. I will take that.
You've already been doing it.
I will
so
react to it. Okay, it's a good
react to
one.
that.
Thank you.
Funny what you were saying with the map of the city. People had a hard time finding the country that Donald Trump was talking about. He was talking about a country in Africa called Namibia. But there is no Namibia. There's a Namibia and a Zambia, but there's no Namibia.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
No wonder I had trouble getting directions to Namibia.